All right. Good morning and welcome to the Utopian Cafe for Friday, September 10th. As always, we have our good friend Stan Phillips here. We're going to get to him shortly, talk a little baseball, talk a little Mets, of course. 5 questions for Stan. Before I start the show today, I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter, who's 16 today. I can't believe you're 16, Gracie. So if you're seeing this, happy birthday, Daddy loves you. It's the third to last weekend, I guess, of the Utopian Baseball Universe regular season. We have 15 games left in the regular season. We had a short schedule yesterday that Geeker Cruzen, Danny Pearson, and Greg Maternowski helped me simulate yesterday. You can see the scores on the bottom. This weekend is rivalry weekend. So we've got all the natural rivals facing each other. We got the Phillies at Red Sox. That's a big series because the Sox only have a 4-game lead on Philly for one of the remaining wildcard spots in the East. So that's a big series. Toronto at Montreal. They're going to be on Sunday Night Baseball on Sunday night. We're going to see Roy Halladay versus Bryn Smith on that one. Yankees at Mets. I know they're facing each other in Major League Baseball. They're also facing each other in the Utopian this weekend. They're going to be Saturday night main event on TBS tomorrow. We got Washington at Baltimore, Pittsburgh at Detroit, Chicago Cubs at the White Sox. The Brewers are in Minnesota. Another big series in Ohio. We've got the Reds and Indians. Reds actually lead the Indians by 4 games in the North. So the Indians have a chance to make up some ground here. Oakland at San Francisco. The Angels at Dodgers. They're actually going to be our Xbox stream tonight. That's going to be a later game, probably 10:30 tonight. San Diego at Seattle. We got Arizona at Colorado playing up the string. Florida and Tampa Bay. That's going to be our NBC game of the week tomorrow with Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola. We've got Houston at Texas. Durham and Atlanta, they're going to be our Xbox stream Sunday morning. And because it's the first NFL weekend, it's going to be 8 a.m. sharp. Got to get done. Not that I want to rush it, but I want to get done before all the pregame stuff for the NFL. And then we got Cardinals and Royals this weekend. Saturday afternoon's Xbox is going to be Reds Indians. How about Bullet Joe Rogan versus Satchel Paige? I would pay to see that game any day. So that's the Utopian. Stan Phillips is here. Now, Stan, as always, we always talk about the Mets on this show. And in the last 4 weeks, the Mets have gone from, in my mind, they're going to win the East to, you got to believe, to they really have to sweep the Yankees this weekend, don't they? I mean, 2 tough losses against the Marlins the last couple days. The bullpen just looks terrible. I don't know what the mood is in New York, New Jersey right now, but, like the last couple days, I've just been glancing at the 2022 schedule, just, clean slate. When I think of, I wasn't around for 69, but in 86, it was a magical year. I even consider, 06 to be a fantastic year. 15, we went to the World Series. This year, it just doesn't seem magical. I know we were in first for a good 3 months. We've had all these controversies and just goofy things with Baez and Lindor with a thumbs down, and obviously missing DeGrom for 2 months and no Thor. I'm not saying I don't want the Mets to win, but I don't look back at 2021 as like a, magical season, like a memorable, I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are heading into this weekend as the Mets and Yankees commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11 tomorrow.
Well, there's so many points that you touched on. I'll try to get to most of them. But you're right. This isn't a team we're going to remember in the future. I always look back, and there are certain years, like, say, 2005, 1996. You don't even remember half the players that were on those teams. And I think 10, 20 years from now, we're going to have to struggle to remember who played on this team. Like a James McCann, like a J.D. Davis. They're all good role players. It would have been perfect if the chemistry was good and we were rolling. But there's no magical chemistry about this team. where you can say like the Met in the field, Backman, Dykstra, that whole crew, Hojo. There was a chemistry there. There's nothing here. It seems like it's a team of individuals right now, and it's kind of hurting us. And the fact that the guys who we expected to do the best, like Conforto and McNeil, just have been no-shows this year. McNeil was hot for a month. Conforto was hot in August. But these guys haven't delivered. I think this is one of those years, like in a couple years from now, we're going to struggle to remember what happened, except for the controversies. Giving the thumbs down, the raccoon incident, stuff like that. And unfortunately, that's going to be the legacy of this team. And I know we're still in it. We're still alive. You're never over until it's over. We're never done till it's over, I should say. But for all intents and purposes, it's over because I think the last 12 one-run games, we lost 11 of them. And now one-run games are usually a residue of luck. There's a magical play that happens here. Like in the beginning of the year, we had all the substitute players. We were winning run-run games. It was the little things that won the game. But statistically, we shouldn't have been winning those games. And we've actually hit the ball better now than we did in the beginning of the year. But losing those one-run games, that always comes back to haunt you. That always evens out in the long run. We're not a dominating team by any stretch of the imagination. We don't blow teams out. I don't think we strike fear in any other teams. So when you look at the schedule we have with the Yankees, I think the Marlins we have coming back again. Yeah. No, maybe the Cardinals the next week. We already did the Marlins. Yankees, Cardinals, Phillies. Brewers the following weekend. I forget who fits into the Red Sox before the Brewers. That's going to be one hell of a killer road trip. Playing on the road is never easy. And then I think they come back home and they play. Yeah, it may be Miami because they have a makeup doubleheader for 4 games and then Atlanta to finish the season. Well, everybody's saying that, well, just get within 3 games. We can catch Atlanta in the final 3. You know how hard it is to win just 3 games against any team in any series. So you can't count on that. And basically the Mets shot themselves in the foot by going 5-4 against the Marlins and the Nationals. It should have been at least 7-2, 8-1. And if that were the case, we'd only be 2-3 games right now as we speak, because the Nationals were kind of laying eggs the Braves were laying an egg against the Giants. And they really haven't done that well since then. And then the other thorn in the side is the Philadelphia Phillies. We still have to catch the Phillies. So it's, by all intents and purposes, we're alive, but we're on life support right now. And like I said, it's going to be going down as a disappointment. It's going to be one we're not going to remember. 2 years ago, we had Pete Alonso with the rookie home run record. We had Jacob deGrom win the Cy Young. There's not even that this year. deGrom was injured. And Alonso's having a great year, don't get me wrong. It's just that it's not going to be a memorable one like he had 2 years ago. So there really isn't a highlight per se this year that you're going to look back on and say, oh, remember 2021 when this happened, and mention good things that happened. So unfortunately, it happens, but we'll just see what happens going forward.
And it's a shame, too, because deGrom was on pace to have one of the greatest years of all time. And we were talking like Bob Gibson level pitching performances. I think his I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I think at the time of his injury, his ERA was like, 1.06 or something like that. Again, I don't have it in front of me, but just what would have been with this team. A lot of it was off the field. Like, obviously, I don't think the GM is coming back. I'm not even sure Sandy Alderson is a big part of this future.
Well, Sandy Alderson wasn't even supposed to be a big part of the future this year.
Yeah.
It just happened with the general manager fiasco in the beginning of the year. Sure. He had come in and just hire Zach Scott. But I think Sandy is basically Cohen's right-hand man as far as the operation, showing him the ropes. And I think he was hired for 2 years just to do that. But he was thrust into a situation he shouldn't have been in this year. And I think he'll go back to his role that he was designated for, and just be the president of operations and, help Stan Cohen actually figure out how to run the operation next year too.
Sure. And, and again, we've mentioned his name before, but I'm really hoping that they figure out a way to bring in a guy like Theo Epstein, who's obviously proven it in Boston. He's proven it with the Cubs. I think it could be just a culture change there, which I think the Mets need more than anything, because I think that will affect the play on the field, where you bring in a good culture. I think Roas's days are numbered there. So I think if you bring in an ass kicker at that manager position, that can just right the ship. Because again, and I'll say this every day, there's too much talent on this team to be 70-71 with 3 weeks left in the season. So I'm hoping they figure it out, regardless of where they are in the standings or what position we're in as far as record goes. This is going to be a big series this weekend with the Yankees as they celebrate celebrate's probably the wrong word, but commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I'm hearing Bobby Valentine's throwing out the first pitch tomorrow, and Joe Torre's catching it. So I think that's going to be a memorable moment, and I'll have to check that out. Again, I don't know if MLB.TV will show that live, but I'm sure the Mets will provide it as a clip.
Yeah,
Sometime
it's actually nationally televised on Fox tomorrow. So
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. And they're the ESPN game Sunday. Sunday's going to be crazy in my household because it's the start of the NFL. So I'm usually up at 6 a.m. on the first Sunday at least. Both of my teams play at 3:30. So actually, my family's coming down. My sister and I and her daughter, my niece, we're going to hit a bookstore. We're going to get some mustards and then try to be back in time for the Packers at 3:30. So looking forward to it.
Now you going to the bookstore for mustard?
There's actually a mustard store right next to the bookstore. So I'm going to be.
I was trying to follow the chain of events there. We're going to hit a bookstore, get some mustard.
That would be.
I knew what you meant.
If we can combine the two, I would probably find a way to move into that building.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing because now, like Barnes and Nobles, I don't know if you have Barnes and Nobles in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's what we have.
But you go there now and you could basically, it's like a mini library with a coffee bar and snacks and everything else. You just grab a book and read it there for 2 hours and go home.
Well, the thing is here we have a mall. Like right now, our most prominent mall is an outdoor mall. I don't know how many of those you guys have in the East Coast, but it's actually all the stores are outdoors. It's not a traditional like regular mall where it's almost like a domed, like with all these stores. It's a community. And one of the anchors is Barnes and Noble, and they're actually right next to a place called Trader Joe's. This is where we get all these hot sauces, mustard, salsas, and then kitty corner from that is Buffalo Wild Wings. So I've done many a day where I'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings for a Mets game or football. Right after the game, I'll go to the bookstore, and then on the way home, maybe pick up some mustard. So we're gonna hit the trifecta, I think, this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. Where my niece is coming down, or her birthday was actually in May, but we didn't really get to formally celebrate it. She was moving, we were moving, so we're gonna try to do that this weekend. I'm gonna try to convince my sister tonight or tomorrow for us to build a charcuterie board, and I always don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, but we're going to try to build a charcuterie board for Sunday. Try to do something different other than just the pizza, wings type of stuff for the start of the NFL.
Well, I don't even know what a charcuterie board is. So if you're saying it right, you're saying it right. If not, I have no idea. But what is that?
So a charcuterie board is it's like a and I don't know if it's specific for in Italian culture, but like we have a deli here in Milwaukee called Glorioso's. They make these too. It's basically just a bunch of cheeses, meats, crackers, olives, pickles, jardiniere. It's kind of like a appetizer, like a big sampler of just good stuff.
Yeah, I've never even seen that in the delis around here, so that must be a Midwest thing.
Could be. It could be. But if you Google it, you'll see some amazing pictures. I've bought, many from Glorioso's in Milwaukee, but we want to actually kind of build our own. So we're just going to pick out some cheeses and some olives and pickles and stuff. It's, again, just trying to do something different. Do you have any like specific traditions or rituals that you do for especially the first Sunday of the NFL?
Well, I was a Jet season ticket holder from 1989 actually, I was a season ticket holder when they opened up the whole MetLife Stadium, but I bought the seat license there And then I just didn't pay after 4 years, so I'm no longer a season ticket holder. They were saying, "Oh, you defaulted," but I heard a lot of people just defaulted because it was just too expensive to go there anymore. But it depends on what year you were talking about. If it was a Jet home game in the beginning of the year, the first game of the year, we'd be out as soon as they open up the gates at 9 o'clock and tailgating. If not, when I was younger, when I was more inclined to drink alcohol, we would go to a sports bar. And this was about maybe 20 years ago, and they'd have a $2 menu. You'd have bar pies. That's 20 years ago, the prices, all the stuff you would want, wings, and that normally go for $4 or $5. We were getting it for $2 there. And we'd be there as soon as the pregame shows came on at like 12 and watch it all the way through to 7 o'clock games and just be oblivious to the outside civilization there. And most of us are actually, like, if I wasn't going to a Jet game, we'd be going. That was our big day to hang out. It wasn't like Friday or Saturday night because we all had families and stuff like that. But my wife would give me carte blanche to go and hang out on Sundays at the sports bar. Now, this was before you had like Red Zone and everything. So to go to a bar where they had like every game going on at the same time was pretty cool at the time. The ironic thing is you would see, I don't know, say Dan Marino completing a touchdown pass live on the TV, and then like you'd be watching the Bronco Raider game, and they'd be showing replays, and you would think, oh no, Marino just threw another touchdown pass because it was the same. They were just showing the highlights, so it was just a whirlwind. Like sometimes I think the play was happening again, and it was just a replay they were showing on another broadcast. But that's basically what we did. To cut it short, I know I'm giving you a roundabout answer. I was either at a Jet home game or at the sports bar. Now I'm pretty low key like that. I just soak it in on the TV and everything like that. The only time we really have a special occasion, because my wife really is not a big football fan. She likes football, but she won't sit and watch. It was like the Super Bowl, and if one of the New York teams is in the playoffs like that, we'll make a big day like that. But other than that, it's become pretty low key for me. But I do soak it all in, and yes, I will be watching football instead of baseball on Sunday. I know it's the Utopian baseball universe, and I shouldn't be saying that, but it's the truth.
No, I've gone on record that especially on that first Sunday, it's going to be football for us too. But with the Mets on ESPN, I don't even know what the Sunday night game is for the NFL. I think it's Rams Bears. That game will probably be on because my mom prefers football over baseball. We'll probably have that on TV, but I'll have the Mets game on my phone with the ESPN coverage. So, any predictions for the Jets this year?
Well, I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year. The only thing is we suffered a couple of key injuries to key players on defense so far, and when you start the season off like that, that's not good. Now, the thing that's hurting them is Buffalo's probably one of the Super Bowl contenders, and from what I hear, New England really ramped up their roster with free agent acquisitions and trades. And then you have Miami, who probably is a notch above us. So as much as it hurts me to say this, last place, but as long as they're competitive, last year, the games were over by halftime. So as long as they're competitive and making progress, I'll be happy. So maybe 5-6 wins would be sufficient. There's no way they're going to be a 500 team, that's for sure. And that's the unfortunate thing about football in the New York area is the Giants themselves are probably just as bad as the Jets. I mean, their quarterback situation is never going to rectify itself until I think they get another quarterback, and they got so much invested in the guy they have now. But it's going to be a rough season. But as always, the good, beautiful thing about the NFL is you start watching the good teams towards the end of the year. And last night was a great start with Tampa Bay. And I know my friends shoot me for saying this, but I'm actually a Tom Brady fan. I think he's defying all logic right now. And what he's doing is of historic proportions. And just last night with his comeback win, I don't know if you got to catch it at the end or see the game, but how he wins, he's like, and again, I'm not saying he was the greatest quarterback of all time, but he was probably the one who executed best. And I think that's the knock on Derek Jeter. Like, he wasn't the best shortstop of all time, but it seemed like when the opportunity was there, he did everything he could because all the teams, now I'm bringing it back to baseball, comparing Jeter to Brady. But Jeter, if you look at his best years as a Yankee, They were 96, 98, 99, 2000, and 2009. Check it out, folks. Go to Baseball Reference right now. The 5 best years he had as a Yankee were the years that they won a World Championship. So he was, I guess, the big force behind the Yankees, and I think Tom Brady's that way with football. Yeah, he just makes that team better, and he just executes when he has to. I mean, I'm sure there are quarterbacks who could do the same thing, but Brady just has a penchant for pulling it out all the time. And you kind of expect it. If they didn't win the game yesterday, I would have been shocked, because you give Brady a minute and a half and he can just dissect you and take you down the field like that. So,
Yeah. Brady is, I'll have more of an appreciation for him when his career is over and I can just look at the whole body of work. I find myself rooting against him a lot, obviously, because I'm a Browns fan. They were in the same conference for years. Now he's in the NFC, Packer country. So, they broke our hearts last year, but he's just incredible. And I've been criticized for saying this, but I think Brady proved last year that Belichick needed him more than
right.
Brady needed him, because Belichick hasn't won a single Super Bowl without Brady, and Brady won 6 with Belichick, but then in his first year in Tampa, he wins 1. They win last night. It's just unbelievable what he's done. To think that when I was a kid, the fact that Montana won 4, and this guy has 3 more than that, and he's still going strong. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. So but who's the team I think is going to win? I'm always wrong, but I think Buffalo may actually be the Super Bowl representative this year, and that'll be a good thing to see. And the NFC, it's a crapshoot for me. I'm even going to say maybe the Packers. I'll go with the Bills and Packers.
Well, you just made Andrew Pfeffer happy. That's his 2 teams. He obviously a big Packers fan, but he's been a Bills fan ever since I knew him as a kid. So that's what he wanted last year when we got Tampa Bay, Kansas City. I actually predicted, and I know it's wishful thinking or whatever, but I've been a Browns fan for since 1983, and I've rarely, if ever, picked the Browns to win the Super Bowl. I think I did in '95. And I've got my little. I got this in Cleveland about 20 years ago. I'm picking Cleveland to win it all this year, beating Tampa Bay, and it's going to be in my prediction. It's going to be Tom Brady's last game in the NFL. Is the Browns beating him in the Super Bowl?
Well, that would be cool. America loves an underdog, so they would rally behind the Browns. That's for sure.
I just think the NFL is a better league if the Browns are relevant. I'm not saying they have to win it every year. They've never even been to a Super Bowl. But again, for those of you watching, Browns over the Buccaneers in Super Bowl 56.
All right, I'm going to remember that. Remember that.
All right, so Stan Phillips is our guest here, as he is every Friday. He's the admin and creator of Baseball: A Way of Life. So if you're not a member of Baseball: A Way of Life, you got to check it out. He also does a group specific for the Mets, New York Mets: A Way of Life, and another fun group, the Fun Stuff group. As always, when Stan's our guest, we have 5 questions for Stan. And I was, kind of a good mix of baseball and not, but the first 2 questions are baseball related. So here we go. The first question for Stan here on Friday, September 10th.
Is there a drum roll for these? No, I guess not.
I don't do.
No, you're not a drummer. Okay.
I'm an air drummer, but I don't do the, it just sounds like I've drank a lot. So the first question is there an American League team in Major League Baseball that you would call yourself a fan of?
Well, here's the ironic thing. Because I don't watch enough American League Baseball, every year I'm going to say I'm going to pick an American League team to watch. That way I'll get to see all the American League teams. Just like if I watch the Mets 162, you get to see all the teams in the National League. And for some reason, I've never committed myself fully to that in the full course of a season. The team I've always rooted for, and I think it's because of Moneyball and the fact that they're underdogs, has always been Oakland. I always said I can watch a Met game and then stay up and watch the A's. So the A's have always had a soft spot for my heart. The Red Sox have always had a soft spot in my heart because if I root for the Red Sox, it kind of pisses off my Yankee fan friends. And I hate to say this, but when the Yankees were really good in the late 1900s, the early 2000s, I actually was borderline a Yankee fan. I loved watching them out of respect to what they were doing. Was I a fan? I don't know. Was it more of a respectful liking? I think that was probably it. Uh, but if I had go with the American League teams to get back to the question, it would have to be either the A's or the Red Sox. But more likely the Red Sox, because if they finish ahead of the Yankees every year in first place or in the standings, it means more to me than if the A's make the playoffs. So I'll go with the Red Sox in that regard.
Nice. Question number 2 for Stan. In your opinion, which baseball record is the most unlikely to ever be broken?
Well, that you can name a lot of them. The one that will never, ever be broken is Cy Young 511 wins. I mean, even when pitchers were pitching complete games in the 70s and 80s and pitching 320 innings, no one was even getting 30 wins. So to get to 511, you'd have to average 30 wins for almost 18 years. And that will never, ever happen.
I'll actually go one further and say we're never going to see another 300-game winner.
Well, never say never on that, because and again, that's I respect that decision, but that's one I would never say never, because you could have a freak like Nolan Ryan who pitches 25 years, and all he has to do is win 12 games a year, 13 games a year. And even that's hard to do in this era. I mean, just look at Jacob deGrom, or it was Noah Syndergaard had like 40 career wins or something. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's so weird to
It
think
is.
that.
He's like 30 years old and he's an ace, and everyone's going to pay big money for him if he's healthy. But he only has like less than 50 wins. So 300's a safe bet. But I think, you don't know how the game's going to evolve. It always runs in cycles. They may figure out, is it really worth burning all these relief arms, and when they run the numbers in a few years. So, but I don't think it will happen. But I think that's a wise choice too.
Yeah, I actually agree. When I wrote the question, I'm like, that's the one I had in mind. And I don't think we're going to see guys pitching 26, 27 years again, because I mean, look at DeGrom. Every year there's some sort of injury concern. I think since he started his run of dominance in like 15, 16, whenever it was, there's always some concern. So I think guys are going to pitch, 10, 12, maybe 15 years, call it a career. The way they're using bullpens now, the way they're using openers, I don't think we're going to see another 300-game winner. I think the closest active, I can't, to be honest, I'm not even sure. Sabathia, I think, was close, but he retired.
Yeah.
Scherzer, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Question number 3 for Stan. Favorite, if any, fast food restaurant?
Ooh, well, you're really hitting home with that, because I'm a fast food junkie. And the good thing is I'm the only one in my family who really is. So it's not like I'm encouraged to eat it all the time. So sometimes I have to run an errand and sneak out and get something that's fast food. But my favorite fast food restaurant, if I had to pick one, now we're talking fast food, I'm going to go with McDonald's, for the simple fact I like the breakfasts, and I like some of the stuff on their regular menu too. The fact that I probably like McDonald's more for their breakfast sandwiches and breakfast than their hamburgers. That's not taking anything away from the hamburgers, but just that 1-2 combo would make McDonald's my go-to choice. But you name a fast food restaurant, I probably can't find anything wrong with it. But I'll go with McDonald's as my answer. And yourself?
It depends on mood. Like one of our traditions here, we try to get McDonald's breakfast at least twice a month for the football. So like we're going to actually be doing that Sunday. But I don't know, like Taco Bell just hits the spot.
Taco Bell is one of my favorites.
I like Arby's, but Arby's is
Oh,
one of the few that has like these high delivery fees for DoorDash. So we haven't had Arby's in like 2 years. But I don't know. Like you, I mean, I enjoy it. I'm not one of these people that says, oh, the stuff they put in that. Look, come on. But yeah, McDonald's is always solid. We have a place here. I don't know if it's considered fast food, but Culver's is kind of like a Midwest burger place. They got custard and chicken sandwiches. They're pretty good too. So you really can't fail, especially if you're hungry.
Yeah, it's
And now
funny
all
though.
the
Arby's has reinvented itself. I don't know if you've been to them. They got all kind of different sandwiches there now. They even have breakfast now at Arby's.
it's been a while for me, but about 4 years ago, I took a job in Iowa for a couple months and pretty much had Arby's every day for lunch. They had sliders for $1. It was between noon and 2 o'clock. The sliders were $1, so I would get three of those. I'd get a buffalo chicken, a pizza, and a roast beef and cheddar, and they were good. I mean, for $3 and then a soda, they were filling me up pretty good. So.
Do they have the thing where you ring the bell on the way out?
Yeah, and my daughter actually, it's funny because it's my daughter's birthday, and every time I used to take her to Arby's, she'd ring the bell. Here's actually a real quick story before we get to the fourth question. On the night of Johan's no-hitter, which was June 1st, 2012, it was a Friday night. I picked up my daughter. I said, wherever you want to eat, we'll go wherever you want to eat, but then we're going to go home because the Mets are playing the Cardinals, and it's Johan's pitching, and kind of want to I want to at least catch the end of that. And she chose Arby's, so we had Arby's. And before we left, we had about a 40-minute drive to get home. I checked the box score, and I saw that Johan had a no-hitter into the fifth. So I said, "Oh, sweetie, we better get going here because Johan's got a no-hitter. The Mets have never done it." We got home. I think it was the top of the seventh, maybe bottom of the sixth, top of the seventh. Anyway, we put the game on. We put our lucky Mets. We had matching Mets hats at the time. And when we got to the last inning on the Mac, actually, that I'm using now to prop my phone on, there's a feature called Photo Booth where you could actually hit record, and it will take 12 pictures 3 seconds apart. So what we did that night was when there were 2 outs in the ninth, I set it to record, and it was just taking picture after picture after picture until it finally captured us celebrating it. So maybe later today in the Utopian, I'll post the one picture that was probably the clearest because I was crying. She was kind of bouncing up and down, and there's one image that I saved where I'm looking at the screen, I'm crying, and she's just looking at herself in the camera. So I'm gonna post that later today. Because it is her birthday and we are talking about Arby's. So
That's cool. That's one of those "where were you when Johan threw the no-hitter" type questions.
exactly. Fourth question for Stan. We know he's a Jets fan, former Jets season ticket holder. Do you currently, or have you ever played fantasy football?
Yes, I have, and I am terrible at it. And the reason why I'm terrible at it is because it's a different approach to fantasy football than real football. I'm like old school. I like the quarterback. I like the running. But in fantasy football, basically you have to go for wide receivers and running backs, and it's too much work for me to do that. To follow like the wide receivers and running backs, I'm more like a team guy. And every year, even this year, my son say, "Oh, join. We got an opening. Got an opening." I say no because I kind of think we kind of talked about this before. And I respect everyone who plays fantasy football. I mean, if it keeps your interest in the game, that's great. But for me, I'm one of these guys. If like I'm 1-3 after 4 weeks, I'm dogging it, and I just want to quit at that point. So yeah, I'm one of those guys that puts his tail between his legs and crawls home if it's not going good and I don't give it the effort. But I'm one of those guys who I also like the first couple weeks I'm into it, but then I said, wait a minute. It's sort of like how many times can you stick your hand in the oven and get burnt and realize that, you got to think week 17, not the first week. You can't fall for the sales pitch. But I do enjoy the concept, and I actually do read about fantasy football in all these publications, see where the players are ranked and everything. So it kind of gives me an idea of how they accomplish things statistically on the field and how they're valued by fantasy players. But me, myself, I'm terrible at it. So I don't play it anymore. I do enjoy following it. I do enjoy hearing other people talk about it. It's just not meant for me week after week after week.
Fair enough. And our final question for Stan today, and then we'll get to the comments. We've actually got 3 comments this morning. Who's the biggest celebrity you've ever conversed with?
Okay. Now, there have been some big ones because I used to hang out in Manhattan a lot as a child. Well, not a child, in my 20s and before I got married. So I was all over the place. Uh, as we've discussed before, David Letterman's one of my all-time heroes. So me and my friends, we went to Macy's, which was across the street from Madison Square Garden. We're actually going to a party at Fashion Institute of Technology, which is about a few blocks away from Madison Square Garden. So basically a few blocks away from Macy's. And I got a credit card application for Macy's, didn't fill out or anything. And we're walking around. The party wasn't until like 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. And Caroline's Comedy Club used to be maybe a block away from Fashion Institute of Technology. So we're walking around, and who comes out of Caroline's? Now, there wasn't even a show at the time, so this had to be like about 6:30 in the evening. It's David Letterman. He's wearing one of those caps he would always wear. Not a baseball cap, but how can you say, like the English wear, like John Lennon or whatever, right? It's hard to describe. And he's smoking a cigar, and he comes out. And this is when he was still doing late night with David Letterman, not the Late Show. And he's with his executive producer at the time, and I think it was his girlfriend at the time, Meryl Monroe, and they're coming out. So maybe they were recruiting somebody, seeing someone perform. I'm not sure, auditioning for the show. And he comes out, and I said, "Oh, I gotta say something." Like 4 other people with me, 4 other guys, and they're not saying anything. So I run up to Dave, can you sign this Macy applications? And he goes, "Well, you know my credit's no good." I said, "No. Yeah, right away he did that, and then he takes a puff of a cigar, and I said, "What was on your top 10 list tonight?" Because I guess he tapes the show until like 5:30 at night or 6 o'clock, so he must have just headed down there. And he said New Jersey rest stops. So he had a top 10 in New Jersey rest stops. So it was like less than a minute, a little banter. I just asked him a couple of questions. I asked him to sign the Macy's application, which he did, and that was it. My other celebrity encounter, and I'm a big fan. We were talking about favorite actors the other day. I mentioned Bill Murray, but Jack Nicholson's one of my own. And we were also talking about Hall & Oates, how I went to a Hall & Oates show at Madison Square Garden. So I'm walking in the hallway during the show, went to the bathroom, coming out, and here comes Jack Nicholson walking down with this long trench coat, and he's with another guy. And he's got his shades on. I don't know if he had an eye condition or not, but he always had his shades on, no matter how dark it was. So I happen to have an index card in my back pocket, and I had a pen. I said, "Jack, can you sign it?" He didn't say a word, didn't miss a beat, just kept walking, signed it, beautiful signature, and handed it to me and kept walking. Never said a word to me, obliged my autograph request, beautiful signature, and just kept walking. So like that image to me lasts forever. I was like, how cool was that? The guy just, and he could have just put like JN or whatever, but he wrote signed every letter perfectly, handed it to me, but he didn't say one word. So that was not a conversation. So I'll go with David Letterman as my favorite.
Solid. And we've talked about Letterman before. He's my favorite of all time. That original late night show is still my favorite, probably television show of all time.
Well, I always say that paved the way for everything else on TV because he did things that no one ever did before on TV on that show. And he made it cool to be goofy on TV. I think every show since then has taken some element that David Letterman did, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It's just been passed on through the years, and I think it evolved into what you didn't have to take TV that seriously anymore. You could poke fun at yourself.
Yeah, A&E used to show the old reruns like years and years ago. I think he was actually still on late night when they were doing that. They would show the reruns from like the early 80s, mid 80s and stuff. But I, at least once a week, I go to YouTube and I watch an old episode with either like Bill Murray or Charles Grodin, some of the great guests that he's had on in the years. So that's great. Dave Letterman. Have you checked out his Netflix show?
Yes, I have. It's good, but it's kind of Dave out of his element, but it's good when he cracks his usual humorous jokes. That's what I tune in for. But a lot of his guests, I don't think really mesh well with Dave's personality. But I do watch it when I get a chance.
Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes. I mean, I like it, but it's not the same as the old stuff. So got a couple comments from Geeker Cruisin, friend of the show. He votes for Subway as his favorite fast food. Do you guys have Subways out east?
Oh, actually, when Subway came here, there's always like a chain of restaurants that when they first come out, they're like the in thing. So this had to be in the early 2000s when Subway came out and they gave you a card. Like if you went every 5 times, you got a free sandwich or something like that. When I was working in the city, we had people habitually go to Subway every friggin' day. And even I was caught up in the craze. And I think what makes Subway the great, I don't even know if it's real meat they put on those sandwiches, but the fact that the roll is fresh and you can put whatever toppings you want on there. If you're going there for the meat itself, it's not the place to go to. I think what the beautiful thing about Subway is you can create your own sandwich. But I think also that's sort of like an urban thing, like in the city, to grab a sandwich and go. So in the suburbs where I am, we have them, but they're really not that popular anymore. So at one point, yeah, I was living off a Subway. And I still enjoy a Subway sandwich, but I totally forgot about them as one of the fast food alternatives. But that's one of my choices too.
Nice. Geeker also has a comment about Johan Santana. Says prime Johan was a beast. I actually, when he was a Twin, the Twins were facing the Brewers in 2005, and Johan Santana actually gave up the first major league home runs to Ricky Weeks and Prince Fielder in the exact same game. Might have been the same inning. I'm not sure. But for trivia buffs there, Ryan Braun was drafted like 3 days before this, and they actually had him in the booth for the TV broadcast. And they were interviewing Ryan Braun as Ricky Weeks and Prince Fielder were hitting their first home run. So a friend of mine who's actually in the group burned that game onto a disc as kind of a neat memory because we were at that game together. So that's kind of a cool Johan moment for me. And Geeker with a Jets commentary here. Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore look good. Would you concur?
Yes, especially Zach Wilson. I think he's the real deal. And I think he will be one of the, I'm not going to say elite quarterbacks, but I see him being our quarterback for the next 10 years. And I didn't say that about all the last Jet quarterback I was really high on was Chad Pennington because of his cerebral skills. I thought he was a very intelligent quarterback, sort of like a Joe Montana or a Tom Brady. I mean, again, I'm putting him up there with them, but you get the idea. It's not his talent. It's the way he knew how to execute a game plan. But I think with Zach Wilson, he both has talent and he's a very intellectual quarterback. So I think the sky's the limit for him. But now we just got to get the talent around him and make sure he doesn't get hurt.
Nice. Well, it's going to be a fun Sunday with all the football, baseball winding down. Utopian, again, 15 games left. Once again, the Xbox streams. We're going to have late tonight, Angels and Dodgers, separated by 3 games in the West right now for that final wild card spot. We got the Indians Reds tomorrow, separated by 4 games at the top of the North. And Sunday morning, 8 a.m., the Durham Bulls at the Braves. The Bulls with just a 1-game lead on the Braves. So they could be flipped in the standings by the time that Sunday game kicks off. Again, I want to thank Stan Phillips. He's here every Friday. Go check out Baseball, A Way of Life, New York Mets, A Way of Life, the fun stuff. Stan, thank you again.
And I just want to say I love your matchup. I love your matchups. The only ones you always get like Arizona, you got to throw them with a Colorado or whatever, but you have the perfect matchups for this weekend. There's rivalries galore on there, and that's fun. That's always fun. Even if you're not a true baseball fan, it's always good to see the rivalry game. So it should be a fun weekend for you.
Yep, we do these particular matchups specifically 4 times a year because they're all division games in the Utopian. But I wanted to feature them late in the season this year because of those rivalries. And some of them, like I said, Cincinnati, Cleveland, they're the top 2 teams in the universe right now. So that's going to be a huge series in Cleveland. Atlanta, of course, won it all last year in the Utopian. They're a game back at Durham. So it's going to be really fun to see. Can Durham hold on? Can Atlanta catch them? Atlanta won it last year as a wild card, so they don't necessarily have to win the division. They've proven that, but it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. I'm looking forward to presenting those matchups. As always, again, thanks to Stan. I'll be a guest in Baseball, A Way of Life on Monday at 7:30. And then, of course, next Friday, Stan will be back here with 5 more questions for Stan Phillips. Anything else you want to add?
No, and I look forward to Monday's show as always, and we can even talk some football on Monday. Hey, it's my YouTube channel. I'll do what I want to do.
Stan will do what he wants. He might give me 4 questions. He might give me 6.
And there's nothing you can do about it. It's my show. But anyway, looking forward to seeing you Monday. Have a great weekend. And as always, it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Thanks, Stan. And everyone else, have a great weekend. We'll see you tonight, about 10:30 tonight. Angels and Dodgers from Dodger Stadium. Fran Charles on the play-by-play. Vince Scully might stop by. It's going to be a great weekend. Everyone have a great weekend. And again, happy birthday, Gracie.
Happy birthday to your daughter. It's a special day for her.
Yeah, 16. And she's taller than her mom. It's unbelievable. Everyone have a great day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you tonight.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.